Imagine for a second that your emotional baggage isn't just a clever metaphor.
Right.
Imagine if it wasn't simply a psychological concept you unpack in therapy, but an invisible, literal, physical weight that you were actually carrying around inside your body.
That's a wild thought.
It really is.
Yeah.
What if that sudden wave of anxiety you get right before a meeting, or, your tendency to suddenly sabotage a promising new relationship?
Or even a random physical ailment.
Exactly, like that random sharp knee pain you've had for years. What if all of that was actually caused by an old, unprocessed emotion physically trapped inside your tissues?
Hmm.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we are exploring a deeply unconventional and frankly mind-bending framework from the book The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson.
And it really is a paradigm shift.
Oh, completely. Our mission for this deep dive is to examine what this framework calls the invisible epidemic of trapped emotions. We're going to look at the theory of how these hidden energies supposedly hijack our physical and mental health. And most importantly, we're going to break down the surprisingly simple and highly debated methods the text proposes for tapping into your subconscious mind to release them.
What's fascinating here is the fundamental premise underlying all of this, which is the idea that the human body is, at its core, an interacting energy field.
Right.
Because as a society, we are incredibly used to seeing ourselves as solid mechanical objects. Bones, muscles, blood, like a machine.
Yeah, a meat machine, basically.
Exactly. But this framework asks us to step back and view our emotions as measurable energy. The core argument is that when the flow of that emotional energy is disrupted or stuck, it wreaks havoc on the entire biological system. It's a completely different paradigm for understanding health, pushing well beyond traditional Western medicine.
Okay, let's unpack this for you. What exactly constitutes a trapped emotion in this model? The premise is that as we go through life, we continually process emotions. That's normal.
Right.
But sometimes when we experience something intensely negative like sudden grief, a flash of intense anger, or overwhelming fear, the emotional processing gets derailed.
It glitches out.
It glitches out. Instead of just feeling the emotion and letting it dissipate, the theory suggests the energetic frequency of that emotion becomes literally trapped within the physical body.
We aren't talking about a vague aura here.
No, not at all. The claim is that these trapped emotions exist as well-defined spheres of energy. The book says they range from the size of an orange to a cantaloupe, and they lodge somewhere specific inside you.
Right. And to understand the mechanics of how this is even theoretically possible, the text points us straight to the brain's architecture. We don't need to rehash the basics of the conscious versus subconscious mind. You already know your conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg. But what this framework emphasizes is the absolute unfailing retention of the subconscious.
This is nothing.
Nothing. It acts as a massive, ultra-powerful quantum computer. It isn't just running your breathing and cell replication. It is archiving every face in a crowd, every microscopic injury, and the exact energetic signature of every single emotion you have ever felt, whether you consciously remember it or not.
And the evidence used to back up that idea of absolute memory retention is incredible. The book highlights the historical work of Dr. Wilder Penfield. He was a pioneer in brain surgery.
Right.
Because the brain itself has no pain-sensing nerves, brain surgery is often performed while the patient is completely awake.
Which sounds terrifying, but it's standard.
It is. So Dr. Penfield discovered that if he stimulated a very specific, tiny spot on the awake patient's temporal lobe with a delicate electrode, the patient wouldn't just remember a past event. They would suddenly vividly re-experience it.
Like they were actually there.
Yeah. Exactly. They would smell burning toast, or hear a conversation from decades ago, or hear a specific song playing perfectly. And if you touched the exact same spot again minutes later, they would replay the exact same memory. The book uses this to argue that the subconscious mind literally records everything. Nothing is ever truly deleted.
Exactly. The subconscious database is flawless. It knows precisely what happened to you when it happened, and crucially for this framework, what emotional energy was left behind.
Right.
And because those trapped emotional energies are allegedly still sitting there inside you, the book argues they actively sabotage your present life. They do this by forcing you to carry the energetic frequency of the past into every new, totally unrelated situation.
Let's look at how that sabotage supposedly plays out. Think about your own life for a second. Have you ever held on to resentment long after a situation ended?
Most people have.
Yeah. The text brings up Neil, a teacher from Canada. He worked under a principal who was just absolutely vicious.
Yeah.
Neil eventually left. Well, he actually went on stress leave. But for 2 whole years afterward, he was completely plagued by the experience.
2 years.
2 years. He couldn't sleep. He would sit at home, and his blood pressure would physically spike as he ruminated about this principle.
Now, traditional psychology might call this an intrusive thought loop.
Right. But this framework argues that Neil's resentment was a literal, physical structure of trapped energy. According to the case study, when that specific trapped emotion was identified and released through the book's methods, which we'll get to, Neil felt a physical sensation leave his body. The rising blood pressure and the insomnia vanished entirely.
It's a really interesting reframing. It suggests that you might think you have moved on simply because time has passed or because you changed jobs or cities, but your physical tissues are still inhabited by the energetic signature of that old event.
Yeah, you were carrying a hostile roommate.
Precisely.
We see a different flavor of this sabotage with a young woman named Jennifer. She came to the clinic because she was constantly torpedoing every new romantic relationship. She had this unfounded, paralyzing fear of commitment.
And where did it come from?
Well, through the methods we'll discuss later, her subconscious supposedly revealed a trapped emotion of creative insecurity.
Creative insecurity.
Yeah, and this didn't come from her childhood, which is what you might expect. It stemmed from a really stormy, tumultuous romance she had been in just the year prior. She felt deeply insecure about creating a new relationship. The claim is that once she released that specific energetic block, her shyness evaporated, and she was able to confidently watch a new relationship grow without sabotaging it.
And this raises a really important question for you listening. If we entertain this premise, how many of our daily struggles, our unexplained anxieties, our career blocks, our relationship failures, are actually being dictated by the lingering frequency of an event from years ago that we barely even consciously register anymore?
That's perfectly illustrated by Julia, the court recorder. She was failing her high-pressure certification exam over and over. 3 times she failed it, despite knowing the material perfectly.
Oh, that's incredibly frustrating.
Her subconscious apparently revealed a trapped emotion of discouragement. But it wasn't from her schooling. It stemmed from when she was 15 years old, going through her parents' messy divorce.
Wow.
Yeah, that trapped discouragement from her teenage years was being energetically triggered every single time she faced a high-pressure situation as an adult, completely sabotaging her career. The book claims that once the discouragement was cleared, she aced the test with a near-perfect score.
It paints a picture of invisible energy exerting a powerful, tangible influence on our behavior. But the framework doesn't stop at mental or emotional sabotage.
No, it doesn't.
It pushes the boundaries much further, arguing that these trapped energies manifest directly in the physical tissues, causing chronic pain and mimicking disease.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The physical toll. The medical anecdotes presented here are massive paradigm leaps. Take the story of a patient named Debbie. She was rushed into the clinic presenting with all the classic signs of a heart attack.
Right.
Crushing chest pain, difficulty breathing. Her left arm was completely numb. The left side of her face was numb.
Terrifying.
But her vital signs and EKG were totally normal. According to the framework's diagnostic tools, the cause was a trapped emotion of heartache. And this heartache was from 3 years prior when she discovered her husband was having an affair.
Even though she had done the work to move past it.
Exactly. She'd spent a year in therapy, cried all the tears, remarried, and consciously thought she'd completely processed it.
But the theory goes that she had only processed it on a cognitive level. The literal physical energy of that intense heartache had lodged in her chest, what the author refers to as a heart wall.
A heart wall.
Right. The case study claims that once that specific trapped emotion was identified and energetically released, the feeling immediately rushed back to her arm and face, and the chest pain vanished in seconds. It is presented as a staggering demonstration of the mind-body connection, taking psychosomatic illness to a very literal extreme.
It is a massive claim. And it gets even more specific than that. There's a story about a young woman named Jessica who suffered from severe degenerative knee and hip pain for years. It was heavily impacting her ability to walk. The subconscious query revealed a trapped emotion of feeling unsupported.
Unsupported.
Yeah, and the timeline. It allegedly happened in the very first year of her life.
As an infant.
As an infant. Now, Jessica obviously had no conscious memory of this. But her mother, who was in the room during the session, suddenly remembered a horrifying incident. When Jessica was a baby, the mother was changing her cloth diaper and accidentally drove the safety pin right through baby Jessica's skin, pinning her to the diaper.
My goodness.
The baby cried for hours, feeling completely alone and unsupported until the mother realized the mistake. The framework argues that single event lodged a trapped emotion in her hip and knee, causing physical pain for over a decade. Days after releasing it, the book claims Jessica's pain was completely gone.
If we look at the underlying logic of that claim, it highlights a fascinating pattern. The theory suggests a trapped emotion will often gravitate toward a physical vulnerability or lodge in an area of the body that has a metaphorical resonance to the emotion itself.
Right.
Feeling unsupported naturally gravitated to the very joints, the hips and knees, that physically support the human frame.
That makes a strange kind of sense within the framework. But it isn't always deep, dark childhood trauma. There's the case of Jack, who came in with a severe case of tennis elbow. He couldn't even turn the key in his car ignition. Traditional chiropractic adjustments were doing absolutely nothing.
So what was it?
When they checked for trapped emotions, they found 5 different energetic blocks lodged in Jack's elbow emotions, like inferiority and nervousness. And the punchline, every single one of them was tied to a different girl he had a crush on back in high school.
Ah, that is amazing.
Once those 5 frequencies were cleared, the claim is his pain went from crippling to 0 in minutes, with full range of motion restored.
Which forces us to ask, where are these specific emotional frequencies actually originating? If we connect this to the bigger picture, this framework leans heavily into ancient medical traditions. Traditional Chinese medicine, which dates back thousands of years, has long maintained that the organs of the body themselves actually produce the emotions we feel.
It isn't just a chemical reaction happening in your brain.
Right.
The text goes deep into this organ-emotion correlation. It posits that the lungs, for example, physically produce the emotion of grief. The book references the tragic passing of Dana Reeve, the wife of actor Christopher Reeve. She was a non-smoker who died of lung cancer relatively quickly after her husband passed.
Yes, that was widely discussed.
The argument made here is that the immense, overwhelming grief she suffered was produced by her lungs, essentially overworking the organ energetically and creating a vulnerability that contributed heavily to the disease.
We see a similar correlation drawn with the liver, which in this system produces anger. This is used to elegantly explain a very common societal phenomenon, the angry drunk.
Oh, right.
Alcohol is highly toxic and processed directly by the liver. When someone consumes too much alcohol, it overworks and inflames the organ. Because the liver allegedly produces feelings of anger, an overstimulated liver results in heightened, unprovoked rage, hence the angry drunk. The overarching theory is that when an organ is chemically or energetically imbalanced, the emotion it produces is intensely magnified.
It's wild to think about our organs acting as emotional factories.
Yeah.
But there's still a massive leap here. How does an invisible emotion cause physical joint pain or mimic a heart attack? To bridge this gap, the book uses the Lego universe analogy.
This is a great analogy.
If you look at your hand right now, it looks solid. You can slap it on a desk and hear a thud. But if you put it under a powerful microscope, you see cells. Zoom in, you see molecules. Zoom into the atomic level. And atoms are essentially 99.9999999% empty space.
Mostly nothing.
Mostly nothing. You are fundamentally just a collection of incredibly tiny spinning clouds of subatomic energy. If you removed all the empty space from your body, you'd be so small you'd need a microscope to be seen.
And because we are fundamentally made of dynamic vibrating energy, the framework argues we are subject to the laws of energy. One of the most critical laws here is resonance, or the tuning fork effect.
How does that work?
Well, if you walk into a room filled with different sized tuning forks and you strike one that vibrates at a specific frequency, any other tuning fork in the room designed for that exact same frequency will automatically begin to hum. They fall into resonance even without physical contact.
So apply that to the body. If you have a trapped emotion of, say, fear, residing as a ball of energy in your shoulder, that specific part of your body is constantly vibrating at the exact frequency of fear. You essentially have a tuning fork of fear humming inside your tissues 24/7.
Yes.
So when you encounter a mildly stressful situation at work, you are biologically primed to fall into resonance with fear much faster and much deeper than your coworkers, because part of you is already vibrating with it.
Exactly. You physically attract and amplify more of what you are emitting. It offers a mechanical explanation for why people sometimes feel like they just can't shake a certain mood or why they are easily triggered. But what is truly staggering about this concept is that this thought energy, this quantum connection, supposedly has no physical boundaries. It isn't confined to the limits of your skin.
No, and that concept is illustrated by the kamikaze experiment, which is one of the most intense studies mentioned in the text. Scientists took white blood cells from a World War II Navy veteran. They placed the cells in a petri dish across the room, hooking both the veteran and his isolated cells up to highly sensitive electrical measurement devices.
Okay.
They then showed the veteran terrifying newsreel footage of Japanese kamikaze pilots attacking aircraft carriers, a scenario he had actually survived during the war. Immediately, his electrical activity spiked in acute terror. But here's the crazy part. His isolated white blood cells across the room spiked at the exact same millisecond.
And the researchers took it even further. They drove the petri dish of his white blood cells to another laboratory miles away. They ran the experiment again. The veteran watched the footage, felt the terror, and his cells miles and miles away reacted simultaneously, instantly matching his chaotic electrical readouts with zero time delay.
Miles away. According to these experiments, the suggestion is that energy and intention are deeply, instantaneously connected, regardless of physical distance, which implies our energetic field is far more expansive than biology textbooks suggest.
And if our energy extends beyond our physical bodies in that way, it implies we have an energetic interface we can actually communicate with. We don't have to guess if we have trapped emotions or guess where they came from. If the subconscious mind holds the database, the question becomes, how do we query it?
Right, how do you actually find these trapped emotions if they're invisible and you can't consciously remember them? The framework introduces the concept of applied kinesiology, commonly known as muscle testing. The underlying principle is that your body will naturally be drawn toward positive, true things and physically repelled by negative, false, or toxic things.
A prime example of this mechanism is an experiment performed by Dr. David Hawkins with an audience of over 1,000 people. His staff handed out sealed, completely unmarked envelopes to everyone. Half the envelopes contained an artificial sweetener. The other half contained organic vitamin C. Okay. The audience members paired up and tested each other's muscle strength, usually by pressing down on an outstretched arm while holding the sealed envelope to their chests. The results claim that every single time a person's muscle tested weak and gave way, they opened the envelope to find the artificial sweetener.
Wow.
Every time they tested strong and rigid, they were holding the organic vitamin C. The conscious mind had absolutely no idea what was in the envelope, but the subconscious energetic field supposedly knew what was beneficial and what was toxic, altering physical muscle tension in response.
That is a wild concept.
Hmm.
And the book insists you can test this on yourself right now using what it calls the sway test. If you stand completely still in a quiet room, feet shoulder-width apart, and you clear your mind and say the words unconditional love out loud, well, within a few seconds, your body will gently sway forward. The theory is your energy is drawn to the positive truth, like a plant growing towards sunlight.
It's a very subtle movement, but it's there.
Right. But if you reset, clear your mind, and say the word hatred, or if you state a name that is obviously not yours to create a falsehood, your body will automatically sway backward. Your physical system attempts to distance itself from the negative or false energy.
It's a profound realization, if true, the idea that you cannot fool your own body. It recognizes congruency and truth instantaneously. And while the sway test is a great foundational exercise, it's a bit slow. The author provides faster methods for self-testing once you accept the premise.
Yeah, my favorite is what he playfully calls the hand solo method. It looks a bit strange,
Right.
but it is incredibly efficient for self-testing. You just use one hand, you take your index finger and hold it out straight. That becomes your resistance finger. Then you place your middle finger on top of it. That's your testing finger.
The best way to visualize how to use this is the dimmer switch analogy. You have to find the exact subtle level of muscle tension in your resistance finger. If you turn the dimmer switch of your muscle strength all the way up to 100%, your index finger won't budge no matter what you say, true or false.
Because you're just forcing it.
Exactly. And if you turn it all the way down to 0, it collapses immediately. The trick is to dial the strength down just enough so that when you state a true positive word like love, the resistance finger stays locked and strong against the downward pressure of your middle finger. But the moment you say a negative word like hate, that exact same level of tension fails and the finger gives way.
And once you find that sweet spot on the dimmer switch, you essentially have a direct keyboard to your subconscious database. You can ask binary yes or no questions. Do I have a trapped emotion contributing to this knee pain? If the finger stays strong, yes. You can ask, did this happen before age 10? You just keep narrowing it down until the subconscious reveals the exact emotion and the time frame it happened.
Identifying the emotion and bringing it to conscious awareness is crucial, but it is only half the battle. The ultimate goal of this entire system is to release it, to permanently clear that disruptive frequency from your body's energy field.
Which brings us to the most controversial part of the book. How do we get rid of it once we find it? I'll admit, this is where I was completely thrown. You don't need a surgical procedure or years of exposure therapy. The proposed tool is a simple refrigerator magnet.
I know, it sounds crazy.
That sounds like a massive leap. How does the text actually justify using a magnet to cure emotional trauma?
So what does this all mean? To understand the book's justification, we have to look at the body's energy pathways. In acupuncture and ancient energy medicine, there are meridians, invisible rivers of energy flowing beneath the skin. The most important of these in this framework is the governing meridian. It starts at the upper lip, goes up over the head, and runs all the way down the center of the spine.
Okay.
It connects directly to every other energy meridian in the entire body. It acts as the master control board.
So the instructions are, you hold the pure intention of releasing the trapped emotion in your mind, and you literally take a magnet and swipe it down your back or over the top of your head, tracing that governing meridian. But why a magnet specifically?
The claim is that the magnet acts as a powerful amplifier for your thought energy. Remember, in this paradigm, intention is a very real, measurable form of energy. When you swipe the magnet along the governing meridian, you are driving the amplified energy of your intention to release the emotion directly into the body's main energy reservoir. Think of it exactly like noise-canceling headphones.
Oh, let's look at that analogy. Noise-canceling headphones don't block sound with thick foam padding. They use a microphone to listen to the specific background hum of an airplane engine, and then they broadcast a sound wave that is the exact opposite frequency.
Right.
When those two opposing waves collide, they completely cancel each other out, leaving pure silence.
Precisely. The trapped emotion is vibrating at a specific negative frequency. By swiping the magnet with the amplified pure intention to release it, the theory asserts that you introduce an opposing energy wave into the governing meridian. The two energies collide and the trapped emotion is permanently canceled out. It is energetically erased, much like swiping a magnet across the magnetic strip of an old credit card scrambles and erases the data.
Okay, let's zoom out and recap what we have covered in this deep dive. We've explored a radical framework where your body isn't just a biological meat machine. It is a magnificent, highly intelligent energy field. We've looked at the theory that your subconscious mind records every single thing you have ever experienced. When intense emotions don't process, this model suggests they become trapped as physical spheres of energy, distorting your tissues, causing physical pain, and laying invisible tripwires that sabotage your present life.
Very well summarized.
But by utilizing muscle testing to directly query the body's database, and by using the amplified intention of a simple magnet along the governing meridian, the book argues you have the agency to clear this invisible emotional baggage. It's a bold claim that you have the power to literally free yourself from the energetic weight of your own past.
And whether you fully embrace the mechanics of magnets and meridians or approach it with heavy skepticism, it leaves us with a truly profound realization about the power we hold. If your subconscious mind is an ultimate recording device, and if your thoughts are measurable, physical energy that can instantly affect your own cells from miles away,
Yeah.
what physical impact are your passing, everyday thoughts having on the literal energy fields of the people sitting right next to you right now?
That is a huge question, and something to seriously think about the next time you find yourself holding on to resentment. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the emotion code. We encourage you to explore the power of your own subconscious, maybe try out the sway test, and see what you uncover. Until next time.